Welcome to the Self-Care 101 podcast with your host, straight-talking life coach, Puja McClymont. This show provides simple self-development, supporting you to embody your self-worth so that you can live the happier, more fulfilled life that you deserve without burning out. Thank you so much for listening today. Hello, it's season 2, episode 11. Slightly different format today. I have a very special guest joining me to talk about being ghosted by friends. Now, we all go through it at some point, and we might have even been the ones doing the ghosting. But why do we do it? And how can we cultivate better relationships with our friends? My guest today is Melody. Now, Melody discovered me through the podcast and then came to a talk on self-love I was hosting last year. We instantly hit it off and have stayed in touch since. Now, I don't tend to spend much time on social media, but when I do, I love to look at stories and see how everyone is living their best life. I read a series of stories from Melody about this particular topic, and I just knew that we needed to talk about it. This show is like a coaching conversation where we both explore the what, the why, and how of navigating friendships. And I really hope that you'll enjoy it as if you were in the room with us. So, let's get to it. So, Melody, thank you so much for doing the show today. I am very excited to talk about this topic. I've touched upon it here and there, but I loved how your energy in your stories, when I was looking on Instagram, I was like, oh, babe, you've got something to say on this topic. And I thought it might be quite good to bring it to the show. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time doing a podcast, so hopefully I do it justice.
Oh, yeah, totally. So I've just spoken a little bit about what we're talking about today, which is basically being ghosted by friends. And obviously it's my coaching podcast, so I will try to help people with coping with how, if you are navigating or trying to navigate relationships with your friends and basically how you feel about it. So let's dive in with, what was your story all about when you posted the other day? And just tell me a little bit about your experience of being ghosted, I guess, from your friends. What's it all about? Where's it coming from?
Well, it would start off with just, having a conversation with your friends. Obviously, we've all been in lockdown for the past year and a half. So it would be nice to catching up with people. And for the fact that, I went the extra miles, reaching out, and then it's just being ghosted. And the fact that you've seen your friends, saw your message, nowadays, every app will tell you. The initial thought would have been, I was quite worried about them. Did something happen to them? Are they okay? Reaching out again to say, are you okay? Like, is this a good time to talk? And still getting ignored, which, was quite worrying at first. But then you start seeing them being on Instagram, posting pictures, posting stories. And then it just kind of made you question it a little bit about the friendship, or whether have you done something wrong to them?
Yeah.
It caused caused a lot of insecurities in yourself as well as the friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's where it kind of started. There's been several times where, I would confront one or two friends, like personally, just call them up and be like, what, this is not cool. I can see you've seen my message. I can see you've been on Instagram. I can see you doing all these activities. And they would come up with like random excuses such as, oh, I thought I replied to you. Or, oh, I'm not on social media that much. I haven't, seen your messages. And I was like, you have been online. Like, where have you been? What have you been using to post these stories? Clearly, it's not on tablet. And I've been your friends for long enough to know, how you're stuck with your phone. Like, we've been out and about and you'll be on your phone all the time. So you can't tell me that you would go, not days, not weeks, but months without touching your phone. And it also made me question, if you thought you replied to me, and if you read anything back from myself, you didn't receive anything back from myself, do you not question it? Like, where is she? Why hasn't she replied me? Do you not go back into the conversation and check, oh, wait, I haven't actually replied to her. I replied to her in my head.
Yeah. And does this sort of like, when you have that experience where you feel like you've been ghosted by your friends, does that then send you into kind of overthinking overdrive with, have I done something wrong? Do they not want to talk to me? Are they not my friend anymore? How do I build this? What do I do? And at what point do you decide that you're going to confront them? And when you say you confront them, is it, in the way that you said, like what's going on, or is it a softer approach? How do you kind of approach that conversation? Because confronting is quite scary, isn't it? Especially in a relationship, a friendship that you've had for a long time. I think it can be a tricky one to navigate. So how do you navigate that?
Well, to be honest, we're all humans, and I think the initial thoughts or initial reaction would be anger.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, insecurity kind of build up to it being anger. Me back in the days, I would have just go into it straight, like, why are you ignoring me? Like, what's going on? But now I kind of step back a little bit, give them a bit of space. Hence why, from weeks, it can now go into months where they don't reply to me. And that's when I would just drop them a message and be like, I clearly see you're online. Like, do you not want to talk to me? That is my current approach. I mean, obviously, everyone else would have a different approach to this, but I felt like it's not once or twice anymore. It's been several times. If it's once or twice, I can understand because, people are busy. And it's millennial things now where, it's cool to ignore people's messages or, just using the excuse of being busy.
Mm-hmm.
So now at the moment, my approach is different. It all depends on how long we've known each other. Do I know them? Are they the people that tend to do these kind of thing? If they are busy, I do have friends who have children who just don't have time to reply to messages all the time, and they're not on social media all the time. That's fine. Sometimes I just meet them in person and I'll just be like, did you see my message the other day? And that would be it. And then we would just laugh about it. And then they would just say, oh yeah, my daughter Erica threw up on me. And that would be it. And then we would just laugh about it. But some others, I would just confront them once. And if things don't change, that would be it. I think I just kind of dissociate myself from that friendship going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have an expectation of our friendships. And, depending on how long we've had a particular friend or whatever, sometimes those expectations are things that need to be rechecked almost. So like, well, if you started being friends, 10 years ago, everybody's grown since you first met. What suited you both at that point 10 years ago worked then, but it may not be conducive to your life now. Maybe you want more from your friendships. Maybe they want or can't give as much as they'd like to give, and everybody's battling their own issues, right? And challenges and trying to navigate life in general. Let's ignore the pandemic. Just, in general, life is tough and it's getting harder for us. I know you've recently bought a house, but to get there was it's a slog, isn't it? And then once you're in, and then it's the stress of maintaining it, and then the next thing you're going to attain. So it's common for us to put expectations on our friendships without actually letting people know what we expect of them, but we're quick to do it with a partner. So, when you meet them, right, okay, you want to be my boyfriend? Well, you need to make sure you call me at least twice a week. I want to hear a good night message from you. I want, we've got to go on a date at least 2 times a week, and we've got to be out, and you've got to arrange this one, and I'm going to, so we put these expectations on our boyfriends, girlfriends, right? Relationships. But friendships are the same relationship. Friendships are, based on the same basis of romantic relationships, which is about meaningful connection. But we don't tend to put that onus on those friendships, that they are a meaningful connection, that I want to cultivate this relationship with my friend. So obviously there are 2 parties involved. So we've both got to be coming from the same place of, I want to do better, or I want to have a better relationship with this friend, or maybe I need to let her know or him know where I'm at right now when it comes to messages and things,
I agree. Yes.
How does that sound? Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. I mean, communication's two-way at the end of the day, whether it's, boyfriend and girlfriend relationship or friendship. I mean, how long does it take really for you to just ping a message, say, I'm not in the mood to talk right now? You can't, in my own personal opinion, I just think you can't ignore your friends repeatedly and expect to still have a friendship. You can't just leave it and come back to it.
I understand what you're saying. I think there's, you see, when you're on the receiving end of a text message, you might want to, like, you're a very friendly person, right? So I can imagine, lots of banter and chat, between you. And perhaps a friend of yours might be wanting to give that space to you because they enjoy that banter and time, but they don't have it right now, whether it's the brain space they don't have, or that they just don't have the actual physical time because, they're putting kids to bed or whatever it is. But it's not necessarily sort of directed at you, unless it is, and that's a whole different thing. We can come to that later on in the show, but it can sometimes just be that they want to give you that space. They want to have a good, engaging conversation with you, but they can't offer that sort of time and space to you. So even to message back, I can't talk right now, or, I don't, whatever it is, I don't know like the right language to use, but whatever that message is about, saying that I'm not able to talk at the moment, that might then elicit you to worry because they know that you're kind like that, and then you would worry. I have a friend, for instance, and she lives in Dorset. So she's one of my best friends. And I check in with her every so often. We don't talk every week or every month, but we check in often. And there was a period of time where she was not responding to my messages or my phone calls. And I was like, And I went straight to the what's wrong, what's happened. And I realized I didn't have any other phone number, like from anyone in her life to find her kind of thing. And so I sent her a message saying, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to drive down there tomorrow. Like I would literally jump in my car and go. And she knows I'm that person. So she quickly messaged and she said, things are shit. I can't talk, but I'm alive. I'm okay. I was like, okay, fine. Because she knows I'll jump in the car and come. But it took sort of like that, it's kind of, for those relationships that you have that are really meaningful to you, it's almost like you can sense that something's up, and I think you do the right thing by allowing people space. But I also think you need to give yourself some space as well within that to reflect on those relationships. Perhaps those relationships have run their course in terms of what you need from them or what you can get from them. And, it's sort of like just reflecting. Doesn't mean you're sort of cutting someone out, but you're reducing your effort because it doesn't serve you well. If every time you message someone, let's just think about like guys, for instance, like when you're messaging, when you're dating someone and they don't get back to you, we send ourselves into this awful tears of like, why didn't he get back to me? That's it. He doesn't like me. And then
what's wrong with me?
Insecurity, full on down spiral, worries me. I hate the world. I'll be single forever. It's just like, and then when he does respond, sorry, babe, I was at the gym. Sorry, I was swimming. He's not going to have his phone when he's in the pool. He's not going to be looking at his phone when he's pushing weights. He's not going to be, or even if he's at work, you don't know what it's like in his work environment, how flexible they are, if he's in meetings or whatever. And then once they tell you, you're like, oh, okay, then. And we let that be okay. But we almost hold our friends to a higher standard. So we might say, yeah, I appreciate you've got kids, so I'll let you have space. But that's not fair on you. How much space can you give someone until they actually give back to you as well? Like it's something, I guess it's something to consider, but you can only really do that if you want to improve that relationship, or if you want to improve the way you approach those relationships as well, those friendships.
It's kind of like there needs to be a compromise between the two of you. And like I said, communication goes a long way. I learned that now being in a relationship with my partner. If you don't set the expectation, even with friends, misunderstanding can come up a lot, even in friendship. I mean, I've experienced in my lifetime where, if you don't communicate what you wanted from the relationship, friendship just fall apart. I mean, I've got friends that I've known since I was 16, and we don't talk every day. We don't even talk every month. Once a year we check in with each other, but we know what we expected from one another. Just because we know, we can see that each other moving across the country, getting married or having a house. We can see that. We can see that on social media. You can catch up on your friends now without actually catching up with your friends. But at the same time, it's just infuriating. Like you said, you're being the only person that making all this effort, reaching out, trying to maintain these friendships. Because although as bubbly as I am, I don't have that big of a circle of friendship. So whoever I still have at this stage in my life, I would like to cultivate it. I would like to deepen the relationship with that person, because we're all grown up now. We all have our own lives, but at the same time, we do need friends. We can't rely on our partner being our own, mental space. We can't talk to our partners about everything. I mean, sometimes I do need friends to rant about my partner. Him not picking up his socks.
No, you're absolutely right. We absolutely need friends. We need social connection, and it needs to be more than what we have with our partners. It's not fair on our partners to make them be our entire social life. It isn't, or our emotional support. We need that, community aspect. That's what we, as human beings, it's a basic requirement. And it's interesting that you said about social media, because I know that's a common one, when you'll message someone, but then you'll see them flouncing on social media. But I would, potentially challenge the social media behavior, because social media is very much about living my best life, right? So I had a really good coffee today, or I had lovely walk in the park. But for the most part, it's bullshit, like people are posting, if you're really, really honest with yourself, you're posting as a personal account. Mine's a business account, so I have a different sort of objective for it. But when you're posting personal stuff, when you have a personal Instagram account or whatever, and you're posting because you're feeling a bit lonely, right? You might not have spoken to your friends. So if you post something, they're likely to like it. They're likely to comment on it. They're likely to send you a message about it or something, right? So then you get connection. It's almost a way of sort of crying for, I want some attention, but it's not a negative thing. I know it sounds quite needy, but because connection with another person is a basic need for us. Social media has become the outlet where we ask for it, rather than going directly to the person and saying, babe, I really need you right now. We post something, that's slightly left field, a lovely picture of the park and swanning around, or just contemplating life, hashtag life goals, living my best life, whatever, right? And then people jump on it and, they'll say something. Or if you put something up, like a quote that really kind of gets to the heartstrings, everybody wants to jump on that and comment on it. Oh my God, I feel you, babe. But it doesn't come offline, So say you posted something that was quite emotional. It doesn't come offline. But you know what I'm like? If I read one of your stories or a post and I feel a bit, oh, what's going on there, babe? I send you a DM, don't I? And I'm like, you're right.
You're still alive.
The undertones of that quote you just posted concern me somewhat. Okay, And I do that with my friends as well. Sometimes, I'll see something, I'm like, that seemed a bit passive aggressive. What's going on there? So I'll WhatsApp a friend and just sort of like, you're right, babe. And normally when it's one of my friends, it's just like, oh yeah, someone was just doing my head in, and I just put something that in. It's like, okay, cool, you're okay. But we don't tend to take it offline. We tend to sort of see it at face value on social. Oh, she's doing okay. Oh, they're fine. Oh, they're happy in love. Oh, look at their cute kid. Blah, blah. Life must be so wonderful for them. But it's just the picture that they're painting. It's the picture that we're all painting, because who wants to talk about what's really going on in our lives?
That is true.
And we can talk about normalizing, right? So there's all these campaigns to normalize conversations about mental health challenges and normalize this and normalize that. But it's a lot of generation to undo. It's not a social media post that's going to make it. Obviously, constantly talking about it consistently, But we've also got to take the action in real life. I call it the ripple effect. It's everyone makes the effort to make change, and that's how the change on a global scale will happen, on a larger scale. So then the children that are born into this world are born into people who are a bit more awake, or self-aware, right? In terms of cultivating those relationships. Because no one tells us how to have friendships. We just have them, right? In the same, and then even in romantic relationships, no one tells us how to have them. We just have them. Then we have a problem, and then we Google it. Like how to stop being ghosted by the man of my dreams. How to get him to marry me, and when are we going to have more sex? We Google, but we don't go in prepared. I'm all about the prevention. And don't get me wrong, I am no martyr. Like, I have completely messed up friendships in my life. And, I struggle with regret, because on the one hand, I regret that I wasn't able to cultivate that relationship better. But on the other hand, I don't regret it, because if I didn't go through it, I wouldn't have grown to know better now. So now
how learn the lesson.
Precisely, exactly. So I wanted to ask you, like, because you mentioned when you were talking, and we were talking about how you would sort of confront your friends. I want to know what makes you take it so personally, because anger is a massive emotion to feel. So tell me what makes you take it so personally when they ghost you, in inverted commas.
I guess it makes me feel that they don't really appreciate my friendship, just being there. And like I mentioned earlier, if it's once or twice, it's fine. I understand everyone's busy. But when it's repeatedly done to me, that's when it's just like, oh, you're kind of taking me as a bit of a joke now. I've reached out, I've tried to cultivate, I've tried to keep the friendship, and you just basically slap me in the back of the head, basically saying, look, no, you're not worth it. Again, I think it's just going back to the whole insecurity thing as well. Like, it makes me question sometimes. I mean, it really shouldn't be, but it does. And I can put my hands up and admit that sometimes when being ghosted by friends, it does make me feel like attacking my self-worth a little bit. I question it sometimes. I'm like, am I not that good of a friend? Is that why you don't want to talk to me? Is that why you don't want to, keeping this friendship? I know it sounds very self-involved. It's like, nothing, not everything's about you. Maybe it's the other person. They may have something going on with them, it's not you, maybe it's not personal, but I can't help how I feel, and again, like I said, if it's a case of communication, if they just reach out, just be like, sorry, not personal, but I don't want to talk to you right now. Rather than me going on a spiral of thinking different scenarios in my head, they just reach out, just be like, not in a space to talk right now. Yes, like, social media, I can go on social media and I can scroll through. It's a mindless thing to do, but I'm not in a mental capacity to have a conversation with you. That's fine. But the lack of effort, and I don't know, because to me, when it's with a guy, I don't take it as personal, because it's dating. You have the social expectation that there would be people that's ghosting you, but no one really talked about this topic, that you getting ghosted by friends. So this is not a normal thing, I don't think. No one really speak up about this. So I've never really, like you said, mentally prepared for the preventions of it all. So it's taken me back a bit, It's taken me back and be like, what's going on? Is it me? It's very self-centered, but it is what it is, and I can't help it.
I would disagree that it's self-centered, because it's you, it's your life, it's your emotions, it's how you feel. There are your relationships. You feel you're putting in X amount of effort with your relationships because you genuinely believe in them and you want to cultivate them, and you're not feeling that you're getting equal back, in return. And then you're also being hurt by the dishonesty that you're feeling from other people. Now, sometimes when we are two in our own heads, I'm just going to put it out there. When we're two in our own heads and we send ourselves on, to the spiral of despair, essentially, of, why they've not responded and this, that, and the other. And, it just takes a second. And I've seen you do this. We work ourselves up, and actually it's more about ourselves than it is them, because we're also allowing ourselves to be in this relationship with these people. We are choosing these friends that to be hurt by, or to feel like we are being hurt by them, but we're doing the hurting to ourselves. If you keep putting in the effort and you get nothing back, and you don't have that honest conversation with each other of like, where you at? Like, I need a friend who is this. They tell you what they need, and then you come together and it becomes this beautiful thing, or it becomes something that you have to say goodbye to. But we're not doing enough of that, because on the other side of you sending a nice message, checking in, they're going, oh, I can't talk to her right now. I want to, but I can't. But if I send her that message, then she's going to be pissed off at me. And if she's pissed off at me, then, there's nothing to be pissed off. I'm just really tired, or I just don't have the space, or I've got nothing to say. And I don't want to make her feel bad. So they're going through that. Not everyone, don't get me wrong. Like, some people are horrible, but, the good ones are going through that angst of not wanting to make you feel bad because you're being sweet and reaching out, and they're not able to do it for whatever reason they're going through. And it's a lot to ask of a person, right? We can raise our self-awareness as much as we want, but it's a lot to ask to keep having to have all that compassion for someone, and to leave the space available for them, and be, and I guess at some point we've got to take back control of our friendships and stick to our boundaries, create boundaries and stick to them. And these are our boundaries. So like having a 3-strike rule, for instance, just a very basic example. I have a 3-strike rule with certain friendships. And that is, if I have put the effort in 3 times and you've not once come back, off your own back to reach out and go, hey, Pooja, how are you doing? How's your life? How's your business? Did it survive the pandemic? How is raising your son? If you're not sending me that message, after 3 times that I've been the one who's instigated the conversation, see ya. It's pretty much where...
That's an amazing rule to have.
Yeah, I'm pretty much see ya. I get told off. Dwayne tells me off about it a lot, but I've just kind of come to this place in my life where I've got a solid handful of ride or die friends, and I know them, they know me. We've all grown together. So we've all changed, we've grown, but we can be really open and honest. And I can say to one of my friends, he can be a bit flaky, and I'm just like, listen, when we book a date together, you're not allowed to have anyone else that day. You're not allowed to meet me for lunch and then you're going to go for dinner, and so you're always rushing and you're never there. If we're making a date, it's you and me, and all you're doing after you and me is going home. And I've really hammered that in now. So now when we spend a day together, we spend as much of the day together as possible, but he's not allowed to do anything else because his mind is elsewhere, and I want him present. But I know that about him, so I called him out. We're in that relationship. I can talk to him that way. But I can't talk like that to all my friendships, And I've, in the past, I've set expectation through action. So these are the kind of things that I like to meet up with people. That's my preferred option. I don't want to text. I will talk to you on the phone or meet up. I'm not texting. My eyes hurt. Thumbs hurt. I just know. I want to hear your voice. I want to, in person, I want to touch you. I want to, embrace and feel your energy and be with you. So those are the relationships that I want. So those are my boundaries, And then that 3-strike rule is, it allows for, it does allow for compassion for someone going through a tough time. But whilst I'm giving them that space, I'm reflecting on that relationship as well to say, do I actually want to cultivate this relationship? It's almost like those friends are allowing you time to reflect and see, is this relationship for me? You know, like we would do with partners. But we do expect a bit, I feel like we do have expectations that we don't talk about. And then obviously when our expectations are disappointed, we blame the other person. And actually, we could have reined it in ourselves somehow. Boundaries, compassion, self-awareness, all of that worked on our own stuff, you know, like why are we taking it so personally? Like if someone's got shit going on, they've got shit going on. Why are we taking it so personally? You know, unless you've actually done something wrong, you can't, in theory, you shouldn't take it personally, but we do, right?
We do. As humans, we do. And then it's not the case of like, we know what we've done wrong. Sometimes we don't, you know, subconsciously, you might be saying something or did something that wasn't sit right with them and they just didn't tell you. So you're just sitting there wondering until the end of days, what have I done?
Yeah.
I feel like that's perpetually the conversation that's always going to have.
Yeah. It's funny you said that, actually. I had that with a really close friend very recently, actually. I had said something to her in a conversation on the phone, and it wasn't until a year later that she called me out on it. And I was like, so for the entire year, you've been festering with this, but you didn't feel the need to like bring it to me. And my friends make this, well, in the past, I used to get the excuse of, you know, yeah, but you're really quite, it's not easy to talk to you. And I'm like, well, if it's not easy to talk to me, then you don't know me. So, you know, I've also grown and changed since I was 21, like you have, but not you, the friend. So if you don't feel like you can talk to me, especially now that I'm a bloody coach, you still don't feel like you can talk to me, then what can I say? And I think she basically said, I felt like you were coaching me. And I was like,
oh,
I don't do that unless you ask for it, or I say, you know, do you want the coaching response or the friendship response? It's a nice little skill. But I ethically do not coach friends. But it was her own shit, because she had put into her head, oh, Pooja's now a coach. Now she thinks she knows everything. Now she's psychoanalyzing me. And what she's saying is blah, blah, blah. It was just like, I've always, because she was calling me out saying that she wanted support and I was giving her a solution. And I have always been a solutions person, always, which is why coaching just worked for me better than counseling. I've always been a solutions person. So when they're coming to me with the, you know, you're telling me how to fix it, and I was like, because that's what I would do. As your friend, I would do that. As a coach, I would not tell you how to fix it. As a coach, I will, you know, work with you on what you want to do. But as your friend, of course I want to help you fix it. Like, I love you. I want you to be well. But it was her stuff, you know, it was what she was going through that was being reflected back at me. So she actually caused the difficulty in our relationship, because all she had to have done was said, Pooja, at that moment, I just didn't need a solution. I just needed you to listen. And I would have gone, I'm so sorry. That was never my intention, you know, and I genuinely mean it. I never apologize unless I mean it. I'm one of those people. But anyway, that was that. But now we've got to build it.
Yeah, to be honest, it's her loss. I would love some free coaching. Just throw it at me. No, but I do feel like, I don't know whether it's a generation thing, but everyone's kind of afraid of being confrontational nowadays. You know, I mean, to be honest, me myself, when I got in a tough with the partner, I had to like step away for a day or two, think of it in my head, how I can respond to him before I can go up to him and be like, you know, that moment in time the other day, you said this or you done that didn't make me happy. But then he completely forgot about it. He was like, why didn't you say something then? And I was like, because I was angry. You know, I need to step away and chill out before I can talk to you about it. Otherwise, it's just going to make the matter worse. We can't be screaming at each other. Yeah, so I think, again, I think it's just going back to what you were saying about the generation need to be a bit more awake and a bit more aware of our emotions and how we go about saying things, you know. Like, it's fine for it's being 1 or 2 days, even a week, before your friend's coming back to you saying, you know, what you said the other day wasn't what I needed and it made me upset. But to let it fester for a year, I feel like that is a bit extreme. Maybe she just goes away and forgotten about it, and then something else triggered her to remind her of that moment, and then she just get upset with you all over again. And like I said, communication is such key solution to, like, all the problems between relationship, whether it's friendship or boyfriend and girlfriends. You just need to talk about it.
Yeah. So what would you do now so the people who have ghosted you, who might listen to this episode or might have seen your stories and your little rant, what would you do now to cultivate those relationships?
Is it worth it anymore? Does it need to take a podcast or a rant on Instagram for them to reach out after so long to be like, you know what? Is that about me?
What would you do differently?
I think I'll have a conversation with them. Even if it's not, I'll just pick up a phone, like call them, or even send them a message and be like, I've tried so hard to be your friend. It's not that hard to ping me back a message. If there's something really is going on with you, please just let me know. I won't take it personal.
I think, let me give you a little tip. When you're having and I'll say this in inverted commas because it's not the word I would use, but when you're having a confrontational conversation, you'll maybe take the word confrontation out completely and just say that you want to have an honest conversation with somebody. You want to know where they're at, you want to let them know where you're at. But initially, it's essentially, in the same way we would talk to our partners, you need to communicate in an I feel way. I feel like this. If you make it about them, you are doing this, you don't respond, you don't have the time, I appreciate that you're busy, we're all busy. It's passive aggressive. It is actually confrontational. But if you go with, look, I love you, I really want to cultivate this relationship, I'm finding it really hard to navigate our friendship at the moment, so can we find a way to make it work if you're up for it as well? Like, I really value I really value our friendship, and I really like to do it. And that way you're meeting them at compassion, right? So then they have the opportunity to be honest with you and work it out, or they have the opportunity to be honest with you and say, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But either way, there is a way of it's a way of nipping it in the bud, but you're essentially getting what you need out of it. You're getting closure, you're getting answers. Yep. So you don't send yourself off in a tiz, with you got time to post on stories, you got time to comment on that picture, but you can't message me back and go, yeah, babe, I'm fine. How you doing? Of course.
That's amazing, actually. I think, you're so right about starting it from the I feel direction, because then I believe that will make them feel a lot less attacked. Yeah. I think that's personally, I feel
that is key, because all the negative feelings that you feel are more aggressive, but they're in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal, because it is based in communication, and we have to stop being so scared to communicate. What will be, and in a coaching conversation, I would say plan. You got two options, two things are going to happen. Either that person wants to remain friends and puts the effort in, or they don't. And before you have that conversation, be at peace with both outcomes, so that when you have it, wherever it goes, wherever the chips may fall, you're okay. You can only look after yourself, essentially, at the end of the day.
That is true. Technically, you have nothing to lose, because you didn't have a friendship anyway, regardless. And if they do now put the effort in, you've got a friend. You want a friend back.
You did have a friendship. It's just that the friendship changed. And we didn't have a meeting. We didn't have the AGM of our friendship to talk about it. We need an AGM to check in with these relationships to see if we're all, if we're on the same path or not.
You know what? That's good. I'm going to start setting up meetings.
Start setting up the AGMs of your friendships. Yeah, the ones that you really want to cultivate.
That's a
That's
perfect
the way
quote.
to do it.
That's a perfect quote right there. Setting
Take
up
it.
AGM for your friendships.
Yeah. We would do it with our partners, and I will come back to that, especially if you've been in relationships or you are in a relationship. We will set aside, babe, can we talk? Right, I want to have a Saturday morning meeting, family meeting. We do these things because we value the partnership that we have, but we're not putting the same value on our friendships.
No.
And I guess it is a values conversation. But friendships are also meaningful connections. The only thing we do differently between that and a partner is intimacy, sex, even not even intimacy, because you can get intimacy from friendships, but you're not getting sex from your friend unless you are, but that's a whole different conversation. but essentially that's the only part that's missing. So why are we not looking at these friendships in the same way that we do our partnerships?
Well, to be honest, I do have a semi answer to that, just because you live with your partner. You're bound to have the conversations. Otherwise, it's just going to get awkward. Whereas with your friends, especially during the pandemic, you don't see them as quite often. So then it's just like put at the back of your mind, and you don't feel the urgencies of having to deal with the situation, such as that if you see your partner on a daily basis and you're festering negative thoughts about them, like so much as a sock on the floor and it would just explode everything. So yeah, that's
I would challenge it back. It's the value. So you don't put the same value on your friendships as you think you do, because you're having an expectation of these friends. You want your friends to mirror your behavior and, give you what you give them. Even if it's just a case of responding to a text message, you expect them to do that. But then you don't call them out on it when they do that. And you just hurt yourself by doing it again and again and again and not getting the response or the relationship that you want, but you're not actually saying what you want. And that's why I say there is a difference, or there isn't a difference even, because some, obviously you're living with your partner, but others don't necessarily live with their partners, but we will still call our boyfriends out on their shit, and we will have these we need to talk conversations when you're seeing someone, even before living together. But we're not having the friendship AGM, which I think has the potential to, I'm being, I guess, a bit blasé with it, but, checking in with your friendships, the ones that you really want and you really like, will help you have better friendships and help you both grow together, as time goes on and evolves. So you can give your friend what they need as well, because it's not just one way, maybe that friend needs a different approach. Maybe that friend would prefer to see you in person rather than message you back. But you don't know that until you actually have the conversation.
Yeah, literally just ask them, what do you need from me in this friendship?
Yeah. Well, what would you like from me?
Yeah. What would you like from me in this friendship? How do I make this friendship better?
So I was just going to say, brilliant. How can I be a better friend to you? How can we make this a better friendship? It sounds silly and it's a difficult conversation to have, especially if your friend might not be woke enough to have the conversation. But it's your opportunity for them to feel and experience something new if they're not, to go, I don't know how to answer that.
That's actually bring me back to your question earlier about why this made me so taking it so personal and getting so upset. Maybe it's because I actually do love these friends and I treasure these relationships. That's why it affects me so much, just because as anything that you treasure or that you love, it hurts when you lose it. Like especially when it's out of your control. As well, like, losing control has already got a negative impact on our feelings. But the fact that we're losing something that, we cultivate over the years, we treasure it, we love it, and then suddenly it's just gone, and it's, it's no fault of our own. And I think that's why it makes me upset and take it so personal. Life, it is but it is. You can't control the other person. You can only control how you feel at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an opportunity for more friendships, different stages in life.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that. It was actually one of my tips that, to make new friends and do things differently. Absolutely, that's an option. But there's also good stuff there with your friendships. But we may not have checked in. One of my tips is to check in with that friend, have that conversation. If you love them, if you're affected by not having that relationship with them, you love them, you're sharing that. I love you. I adore spending time with you. It's like, I want more of this, but I don't want to feel like this is not what you want. So can we have that honest conversation? Let me know how to be a better friend to you. Or if you feel like the friendship has run its course, then I will respect that as well. And you have to respect other people's feelings and things. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the end of the relationship. It just might be not for now, and you might rekindle in 10 years time, who knows, as they do the work themselves and stuff like that. So it's not so much that cutthroat. But the first thing that I would also, like, just wrapping it up now, but the first thing I would say as a tip is to understand why it bothers you. That's why I said, ask you that question. Why have you, what makes you take it so personally? Understand why being ghosted by your friends bother you, and check yourself as well. Do you do it? Right? Check your behavior. Are you giving enough? Are you giving too much? Where are you in this? And then obviously we've talked about this one at length, but for the relationships that matter, have that honest conversation, but do it in the I feel tone. So it's not accusatory. And therefore you're both coming from a mutual space of love and respect, and the want for a better relationship. And make new friends as well, and do things differently. Because I think that's one of the ones that we don't necessarily, we get a bit daunted. Oh, make new friends. Oh my God. But actually it gives you an opportunity to try a new way of friendships out as well, and see what you like and what you don't like. Melody, do you have any tips that you want to share with anyone navigating this?
I mean, you pretty much covered all the bases, but I would just say, don't take it too personally. I know it's hard. I've been in this so many times and it upsets me. But at the end of the day, life moves on. You make friends, you lose friends. Just don't take it too personally. Don't be too hard on yourself. That would be my main tip. Is it is possibly not you. It very well likely that it's not you that causing this rift in the relationship. Don't sit there and think about a million negative scenario about yourself. Like some people, some people might just blame it on the other person, but I know majority of people would go inward and say, there must be something wrong with me. I must have done something wrong. Don't do that to yourself, because you will just sit there and it will fester, and it would just be so negatively impact on your self-worth, and all that kind of mumble jumbles, that bad stuff, that's some negative self-talk that you tell yourself. And it's not worth it at the end of the day.
Totally. Have the friendship AGM. Book those appointments now, right?
That's going to be the caption, I think.
I think so too. Melody, thank you so much for doing this with me. I think that was really good, and thank you so much for being open and honest as well, and allowing me to ask you exploring questions.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all.
It's been lovely.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Care 101 podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate and review over on Apple Podcasts so that other people like you can find the show. For more information about the work I do, head over to my website, PujaMcClymont.com, and for daily inspiration, please follow me on Instagram at Puja McClymont. Sending love and talk to you soon.